afternoon, dear students. So, I think some more students are yet to join. So, today we are going to wind up the lesson, the enemy. Let's see whether the old general sends his assassins to kill the American soldier, or Dr. Sadao takes decision to do something with the American soldier. Let's find out whether the old general remains stuck to his commitment, or he becomes very much he becomes forgetful, and Dr. Sadao and Hana taken together, do something. Let's find it out so that we come to know what happens towards the end, right? So I'll tell you what happened afterwards. So you see here, uh, the servants will come back as soon as the foreigner is gone. Okay. um, okay. So here you can see here, uh, okay. So the first evening, nobody was sent. The first evening, nobody was sent. Right. So first evening, nobody was sent. First night, nobody was sent. Therefore, the American soldier was still alive, as the old general forgot to send the his private assassins on the first evening, on the first night. Right. Now, let's see whether on the second night the private assassins do appear or not. Let's find out. Okay. So, what was that? Hannah cried. The baby woke at her voice and began to wail. I must go and see. I must go and see. That is what she says. Okay, what was that? Hannah cried. The baby woke at her voice and began to wail. I must go and see. But he held her and would not let her move. Sadao, she cried, what is the matter with you? Don't go, he muttered, don't go. His terror infected her, and she stood breathless, waiting. There was only silence. Together, they crept back into the bed, the baby between them. Right. So, as I told you yesterday, there was some underlying tension. There was some underlying tension prevailing in the mind of Dr. Sadao and Hannah. They are not able to get peace, and they will not get it until and unless American soldier is got rid of. Because otherwise, what will happen? Why is there an underlying tension in their mind? Because if the government authorities get some news about the fact that Dr. Sadao has harbored an enemy soldier in his house, in that case, Dr. Sadao will be put behind the bars. So that is what they are afraid about. But now that old general, Hannah doesn't know about the fact that Dr. Sadao has met the old general. Dr. Sadao is not worrying about that. Dr. Sadao is worrying uh, not being imprisoned, of course, but Hannah doesn't know. Hannah might be thinking about that. Dr. Sadao might be arrested. Okay. Now the problem is with the problem with Dr. Sadao is that he himself feels restless. Okay, because as long as this American soldier is in his house or in their house, it is a burden for both of them. That is why they can't sleep at night properly. Right. As soon as they get some sound or the other at night, some noise, sound or the other at night, it is very difficult for them, to sleep, and they immediately get up. Okay, they immediately get up. His terror infected her, and she stood breathless, waiting. There was only silence. Together they crept back into the bed, the baby between them. Yet, when he opened the door of the guest room in the morning, there was the young man. He was very gay and had already washed and was now on his feet. He had asked for a razor yesterday and had shaved himself, and today there was a faint color in his cheeks. I'm well, he said joyously. I'm well. He said joyously, I am well. Sadao drew his kimono round his weary body. He could not. Sadao drew his kimono around his weary body. So what did Sadao draw? Sadao drew his kimono around his weary body. He could not, he decided suddenly, go through another night. It was not that he cared for this young man's life. No, simply it was not worth the strain. You are well, Sadao agreed. He lowered his voice. You are so well that I think if I put my boat on the shore tonight with food and extra clothing in it, you might be able to row to that little island not far from the coast. It is so near the coast that it has not been worth fortifying. Okay, now they are making some kind of planning actually. Okay, so Sadao is interacting with the American prisoner. You are well, Sadao agreed. He lowered his voice. You are so well that I think if I put my boat on the shore tonight with food and extra clothing in it, you might be able to row to that little island not far from the coast. Okay, so Dr. Sadao is trying to export this man actually, okay, to get rid of this man by sending him to a nearby island, okay, nearby island. So he's giving, he's forwarding a proposal. He's forwarding a proposal to that American prisoner of war. It is so near the coast that it has not been worth fortifying. Nobody lives on it because in storm it is submerged. But this is not the season of storm. You could live there until you saw a Korean fishing boat pass by. They passed quite near the island because the water is many fathoms deep there. The young man stared at him, slowly comprehending. Do I have to? He asked. I think so, Sadao said gently. You understand? It is not hidden that you are here. So, like the young soldier, American soldier, did hesitate a little bit, did hesitate a little bit, of course, initially. Uh, that is why he's asking, do I have to go? Do I have to go to the nearby island where a Korean fishing boat will pass by, and in that boat I can go to my native place? So is it required? Do I have to go to the nearby island? Then Sadao said, yes, of course, because everyone knows that I have sheltered you. It has spread by mouth. Okay, therefore you are no longer safe here, and with you we are also not safe. Okay, let's find out. The young man, as you can see here, dear students, the young man, uh, the young man nodded in perfect comprehension. Okay, he said simply. Sadao did not see him again until evening. As soon as it was dark, he had dragged the stout boat down to the shore, and in it he put food and bottled water that he had bought secretly during the day, as well as two quills he had bought at a pawn shop. The boat he tied to a post in the water, for the tide was high. There was no moon, and he walked without a flashlight. When he, okay, so he understood this particular fact. Sadao did not see him again until evening. As soon as it was dark, he had dragged the stout boat down to the shore, and in it he put food and bottled water that he had bought secretly during the day, as well as two quilts he had bought at a pawn shop. So every arrangement Dr. Sadao is making for the American soldier to escape. Can you see how much of humanity Dr. Sadao is having? How much of morality that is Dr. Sadao having? Okay, Dr. Sadao is having such a morality. Okay, he is a valued person. That is why he is arranging everything for the American soldier. Okay, even though he is an enemy soldier, but as he is a good human being, that therefore he has made all these arrangements for the American soldier. He had put food and bottled water, which he of course secretly bought during the day, as well as two quilts. Quilts means sort of mattress, you can say. Two quilts he had bought, so that American soldier, did not feel cold at night. The boat he tied to a post in the water, for the tide was high, and then there was no moon, and he walked without a flash. Okay, there was the moonlight also, and without a flashlight also he walked. When he came to the house, he entered as though he were just back from his work, and so Hannah knew nothing. Yumi was here today, she said, as she served his supper. Though she was so modern, still she did not eat with him. Uh, Yumi cried over the baby. She went on with the sigh. She misses him so much. The servants will come back as soon as the foreigner is gone, Sadao said. He went into the guest room that night before he went to bed himself and checked carefully the American's temperature, the state of the wound, and his heart and pulse. The pulse was irregular, but that was perhaps because of excitement. The young man's pale lips were pressed together and his eyes burned. Only the scars on his neck were red. I realize you are saving my life again, he told Sadao. Not at all, Sadao said. It is only inconvenient to have you here any longer. He had hesitated a good deal about giving the man a flashlight, but he had decided to give it to him after all. It was a small one, his own, which he used at night when he was cold. Even Sadao's flashlight was also given. Like Sadao has made all the arrangements, boards, and inside the board he kept everything so that the American soldier can very comfortably, like sneak into the nearby island, and from there with a Korean boat he can migrate to US. So let's find out what happens if your food runs out, and then before he eventually parts from the American soldier, he's giving him some instruction. If your food runs out before you catch a boat, he said, signal me two flashes. At the same instant, the sun drops over the horizon. Okay. He also tells him, if your food runs out, if your food gets over before you catch a boat, you give me a signal. Okay, with signal me two flashes, I'll understand. Then I'll supply you the food as well. Do not signal in darkness. Do not signal in darkness. Signal when it is still daytime. Okay, not at night time. Otherwise, people will catch you. People will be able to see you. For it will be seen. If you are all right but still there, signal me once. Okay. If you are all right but still you are there, then you have to signal me twice. If your food has got over and you are yet to catch a boat, then you signal me twice with your flashlight. You will find fresh fish, each easy to catch, but you must eat them raw. A fire would be seen. Okay, you have to eat the fish raw, otherwise fire would be seen. Okay, the young man breathed. He was dressed now in the Japanese clothes. He was dressed now in the Japanese clothes which Sadao had given him, and at the last moment Sadao wrapped a black cloth about his blond head. Now, Sadao said, the young American, without a word, shook Sadao's hand warmly and then walked quite well across the floor and down the step into the darkness of the garden. Once, twice, Sadao saw his light flash to find his way, but that would not be suspected. He waited until from the shore there was one more flash, then he closed the partition. That night he slept. Okay. Now he has got rid of the American soldier. He has sent him to the nearby island. Right. Uh, Then, when Sadao was sure that he was safe, then he became relaxed, and then he could probably sleep that night quite comfortably. You say the man escaped? The general asked faintly, and then Sadao might have met general. That is why general is asking, Sadao. You say the man escaped? The general asked faintly. He had been operated upon a week before, an emergency operation to which Sadao had been called in the night. For 12 hours, Sadao had not been sure the general would live. The gallbladder was much involved. Then the old man had begun to breathe deeply again and to demand food. Sadao had not been able to ask about the assassins. So far as he knew, they had never come. The servants had returned, and Imi had cleaned the guest room thoroughly and had burned sulfur in it to get the white man's smell out of it. Nobody said anything. Only the gardener was cross because he had got behind with his chrysanthemums, but got behind with his something he has left. But after a week, Sadao felt the general was well enough to be spoken to about the prisoner. Okay, so in the meantime, what happened? General met with a surgery, and Dr. Sadao did the surgery, and then when general came back to senses, Sadao did not ask him because general was not in the mood to might be reply. That is why Sadao did not ask anything about the assassins. Okay, whether the general had sent the assassins to Sadao's house, and Sadao was might be also not very much aware. So that is what is might be he had to stay 1 or 2 days away in between because of old general's surgery. That is why mm, he said here something like he was not sure about it. Probably he was saying probably like the assassins were not sent. Anyway, nobody said anything. Only the gardener was crossed because he had got behind with his Christian imams. But after a week, Sadao felt the general was well enough to be spoken to about the prisoner. Okay, so after a week, when Sadao could see that the old general had recovered completely, the old general had recovered completely. At that moment, he recovered completely, had recovered completely. At that moment, the Dr. Sadao asked the general or informed the general about the prisoner. Let's find out what he says. Yes, Excellency, he escaped. Now Dr. Sadao informed the old general that Your Excellency, he has escaped. Sadao now said he coughed, signifying that he had not said all he might have said, but was unwilling to disturb the general further. But the old man opened his eyes suddenly. That prisoner, he said with some energy, did I not promise you I would kill him for you? Okay, then you see, you did, Excellency, Sadao said. Well, well, the old man said in a tone of amazement. So I did, but you see, I was suffering a good deal. The truth is, I thought of nothing but myself. In short, I forgot my promise to you. So now the old general is confessing the fact that because of his illness, because of the deteriorating health condition, because of his deteriorating health condition, he was totally occupied with himself. As a result, he forgot his commitment to send the private assassins to the house of Dr. Sadao. I wondered, Your Excellency, Sadao murmured. It was certainly very careless of me. General also confessed the fact that it was very careless on his part to have forgotten his commitment. But you understand, it was not lack of patriotism or dereliction of duty. Dereliction means neglect of duty. Okay, neglect is called dereliction. Okay, but you understand, it was not lack of patriotism or dereliction of duty. He looked anxiously at his doctor. If the matter should come out, you would understand that, wouldn't you? Means if you were also so much physically afflicted like me, physically down like me, physically complicated like me, in that case you would have also forgotten this matter, right? Certainly, Your Excellency, Sadao said. He suddenly comprehended that the general was in the palm of his hand, and that as a conqueror, as a consequence, he himself was perfectly safe. I can swear to you, your loyalty, Excellency, he said to the old general, and to your zeal against the enemy. You are a good man, the general murmured and closed his eye. You will be rewarded. Okay, so the general became very much convinced, very much pleased with Dr. Sadao because Dr. Sadao was very much committed as a doctor. Okay, so that is why the general made a commitment to him that you are a very good person and you shall be duly rewarded. You shall be duly rewarded. But Sadao, searching the spot of black in the twilight sea that night, had his reward. There was no prick of light in the dusk. No one was on the island. His prisoner was gone, safe, doubtless, for he had warned him to wait only for a Korean fishing boat. He stood for a moment on the veranda, gazing out to the sea from whence the young man had come that other night, because he and Hannah together were sitting on the veranda when they discovered the presence of the American soldier on the seashore, right? So now again they are sitting on the veranda after the American soldier escaped, and after Dr. Sada was convinced to the fact that the old general was not causing any harm to him. The old general was not causing any harm to him, right? He stood for a moment on the veranda, gazing out to the sea from whence the young man had come that other night. Okay, the professor at whose house he had met, all these thoughts came to his mind. Okay, The professor at whose house he had met Hannah, a dull man, and his wife had been a silly, talkative woman in spite of her wish to be kind. He remembered his old teacher of anatomy who had been so insistent on mercy with the knife, and then he remembered the face of his fat and slatternly landlady. He had had great difficulty in finding a place to live in America because he was a Japanese. The Americans were full of prejudice, and it had been bitter to live in it, knowing himself they are superior. Okay, so dear students, you see now also it's difficult. This particular racial discrimination is still there. Like you might have heard a few days before, a black man was George Floyd or somebody. Like he was killed by a white policeman. So now also this particular local, non-local, or kind of ethnic clash is still there. Like the Indians also they don't like much, right? So if you are doing a white collar job like a very high, like your very executive job, it's okay for you. But if you are not doing that executive job in America, then might be it's difficult for you to survive there. People are surviving, but like it sometimes crops up. This black and white, they consider us to be black as well. Okay, even though you are fair, but they will consider you to be black. Okay, you are not a native person. They understand it, and then the discrimination takes place. So officially it's not there, but it's there sometimes. Like Australia also, so many Indian doctors were killed and all that. So it often happens in Australia, New Zealand, then the US. Like it's a common phenomena. So this is what Dr. Sadao is also referring to. He's saying the Americans were full of prejudice, and it had been bitter to live in it. Okay, it's absolutely difficult to live there, knowing himself they are superior. How he had despised the ignorant and dirty old woman who had at last consented to house him in her miserable home. Earlier, his landlady was not interested to house him, but later on, she gave him shelter. He had once tried to be grateful to her because she had, in his last year, nursed him through influenza, but it was difficult, for she was no less repulsive to him in her kindness. Okay, she was no less repulsive to him in her kindness. Okay, um, uh, even though she served him, nursed him. Okay, but afterwards, she did not become very much kind towards Sadao, even though she nursed him out of influenza. Now he remembered the youthful, haggard face of his prisoner, white and repulsive. Strange, he thought, I wonder why I could not kill him. Again, the same thought came to his mind. He's saying, I wonder why I could not kill him. Why I could not kill him. So, dear students, he's a good human being. He cannot kill. He cannot kill. But as a patriot, when the feeling of patriotism dominates over his feeling of humanity, then he thinks about all this. He talks about why I did not kill him, or I should not have attended him. I should not have treated him. But eventually his empathy, his human feeling for the American prisoner, sort of overpowered his sense of patriotism. It's not that he is not patriotic. He's a very great patriot. Okay, but in spite of that, like he thought, I shall get rid of the soldier, of course, but after, why not after he gets recovered? Okay, otherwise he will die. So as a human being, he thought like this. But if he was not having that humanity in him, if he was not having that human values in him, in that case, he would not have even touched him. Okay, so he would have died. The American prisoner of war would have died. He would have left him on the seashore itself. Okay, not taking the trouble of bringing him back to his residence and nursing him back to recovery. Okay, so at the top of all, he was a good human being. He had sympathy. He had commitment towards his profession, because when they study medicine, they are made to promise that when it comes to a patient, they will not see his or her nationality, language, religion, okay, culture, ethnicity, nothing will be seen, right? So this is what Dr. Sadao remained stuck to actually. That is why he became successful actually. Okay, and he grew up to be a very, and moreover his father also gave him a lot of values. Okay, so he is a valued personality. Okay, so dear students, here there are some important, very beautiful questions given. So these questions we shall you can study from my website. Uh, you can study. These are beautiful questions. Okay, like you see, Dr. Sadao was compelled by his duty as a doctor to help the enemy soldier. What made Hannah, his wife, sympathetic to him in the face of open defiance from the domestic staff? Right. Dr. Sadao was compelled by his duty as a doctor to help the enemy soldier. Right. What made Hannah, his wife, sympathetic to him in the face of open defiance from the domestic staff? Okay, in spite of open defiance from domestic staff, why did Hannah, his wife, become interested or sympathetic to the American soldier? Then you see here, this is also a very good question. There are moments in life when we have to make hard choices between our roles as private individuals and as citizens with a sense of national loyalty. Discuss with reference to the story you have just read. Okay, so Dr. Sada was having the combination of both. He was a patriot also. On the other hand, he was very much committed to his profession, right? He represented the synthesis of these two virtues in him. Number one is patriotic, and number two is commitment to his profession. So you have to write the answer keeping in mind these two components, okay, two values in him. Okay, then how do you explain the reluctance of the soldier to leave the shelter of the doctor's home, even when he knew he couldn't stay there without the risk to the doctor himself? Because of the way he was treated by Dr. Sadao and Hannah. Okay, they were very much sympathetic towards him. They were very nice and kind towards him, right? Because of the way they sort of made some personal relation. I mean, with the American soldier. So that is what made him feel good. Okay, that is why he was not interested to go, even though he knew that he can't stay there for a long time. Okay, anyway, next, what explains the attitude of the general in the matter of the enemy soldier? Okay, enemy soldier attitude was just it was conventional attitude, not traditional attitude. It was very strong attitude. Okay, a cruel attitude. Was it human consideration, lack of national loyalty, dereliction of duty, or simply self-absorption? Um, Okay, so even though it means that the meaning of the question is he did not send the American, I mean assassins, his private assassins to kill American soldiers. So what does it reflect? Was it human consideration, lack of national loyalty, dereliction of duty, or simply self-absorption? So it could be self-absorption. Okay, self-absorption. Then, while hatred against a member of the enemy race is justifiable, especially during wartime, what makes a human being rise above narrow prejudice? Okay, humanity, human values, and ethics, professional ethics, and human values that helped Dr. Sadao to rise above narrow prejudices. Do you think the doctor's final solution to the problem was the best possible one in the circumstances? Of course, yes. It was the best possible solution, or the best possible way out for Dr. Sadao. Otherwise, there was no way out to get rid of the American soldier, right? Does the story remind you of Birth by A.J. Cronin? See, Birth by A.J. Cronin is similar in theme. Doctor, like Birth by A.J. Cronin, the doctor in that lesson was also very much Dr. Andrew. Dr. Andrew was very much committed, okay, like Dr. Sadao here. So there is a, what is that called? Synthesis. There is relevance, there is similarity between these two themes. Is there any film you have seen or novel you have read with a similar theme that you have to explore? Okay. So, dear students, that brings me to the end of this lesson. So, hopefully, you have understood. So, in case of any sort of queries, I will take from you, okay, of this lesson, and then I shall start a new lesson tomorrow. Okay, so dear students, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you, bye bye. And of course, before you sign out of the YouTube channel, kindly text me with your presence so that I can mark your attendance later on. Thank you so much, dear students. Thank you, all of you, and you please do see the resources from my website of this chapter. Okay, of this chapter, I have uploaded some resources. You can go to the home page, and then there you can type. Okay, on the search field, you shall definitely find it. Okay, Mansi, yes. Mansi, I'm busy with the website work now, but definitely I'll do it this weekend, maybe. So, anime, you can upload the chapter of anime, Mansi, and leave it for me. I shall certainly upload the chapter of deep water. Okay, this weekend certainly I'll do. Certainly. Thank you so much. Bye bye.